Just got done watching Lil Uzi's interview. I learned a lot of shit off them interviews. Yeah, sorry I used to, now I'm not into you. I'm in my zone, I can't have no intervals, no. I simply cannot settle into normalcy and plead. So like them politicians, I got tricks under my sleeve now. Shit, I gotta change now, cause every day's the same now. Our combos are the same now, gotta get out this maze now. All these lines can't trace, live a legend in the making. I had her up just smoking some cookie. Right after that, she was giving me cookie. Running the game, I can't end up no rookie. Word on my palms, I got that tatted on me. My inner self can be fucking annoying. Looking for answers to kill paranoia. I'm not one for talking. Don't do much talking, no. In my zone. Leave me alone. Why you keep talking? Why you keep talking to me? I'm sorry, I don't wanna talk. Need to go for a walk. Gotta gather all my thoughts down.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the season 2 finale of the Four Square Podcast. As always, it's your boy Jeff.
It's your boy Alex.
I just got one question for y'all.
Yes.
Sir.
Do you want a revolution? Do you want a revolution?
Yes, that's right. For the first time, we were actually recording on a Sunday versus a Saturday.
The holy day.
Mm-hmm. And before we move on, Lucas was feeling congested this morning, so that's why he's not in this episode. But I'm sure he's gonna pop in probably later in a little edit part of the video. So, yeah. So that's why he's not here for this episode.
Boy.
But
Lucas, drink some tea.
yeah.
Sick boy.
Kick you in your feet.
But speaking of the Lord's Day, the season 2 finale topic will be spirituality and religion.
Hallelujah.
So, real quick, what is everyone's what, I guess, religion would you subscribe to if you do subscribe to a religion?
I subscribe to the Christian faith. I don't personally subscribe to a specific denomination, although I was raised, I believe, Baptist.
Okay.
Typical Southern Black family, sounds about right.
Yeah.
I don't have any particular religious affiliation because I feel like a lot of religions intertwine and a lot of ideologies are combined. I feel like one religion's ideals might be too restrictive for the actual, spirituality that actually is.
No, I feel you.
It's something that I feel like some religious ideologies are just too close-minded. So yes, I still believe in God. I still believe in a higher power. It's just the fact of, okay, we can't just say he or him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Yeah. What about you, Jeff?
I don't really have a label on what I believe necessarily. If you had to put a label on it, it would be considered spiritual. So as far as, being a Christian, earlier in the local munchies, we talked about, going to church and, church stereotypes. Do you still go to church, Alex?
In the States, I do not. But in Panama, I still do. My family in Panama is very heavy on the spiritual side and on the religious side. They do believe they've been going to that same church, First Isthmus Baptist Church in Panama for as long as I can remember. That's the only church that I've always known to go to every Sunday. My abuela, I believe, is still a deacon. My abuela, she participates. A lot of my family members, they're heavy in that church. So in Panama, yes, I'm very much heavy in the spiritual side and the religious side there. In the States, I do not know.
Okay.
No, I don't go to church.
Nah. But all of us was raised Christian though. So what's a story that you kind of remember very vividly about your time when you did go to church?
When I went to church, specifically for my experience in the States, going to church, I had the experience of seeing what a black church, the typical, Baptist black churches, and I've also been to a more diverse, Pentecostal church. And so, as a kid, when I saw growing up in the black church, it's they were very heavy on typical black church stereotypes, Like there's always like old ladies with giant hats,
Mm-hmm.
and
See,
there's
I
always
feel like if you say black church, you gotta say like really southern black churches, because that's
Southern black churches. Yeah,
It's kind of a difference as you start to move up towards the north.
yeah.
'Cause that whole thing, the whole ideology.
If you grow up,
Yeah.
you grow up in the South, you grow up in like Georgia, Florida, Alabama, the Carolinas, like
This is
Southeast,
this
yeah.
is the Bible Belt.
exactly.
Facts.
Like you know how it is down here. You know, a heavy, hefty, sweating pastor. You know, doing this the whole time. You know, a big old choir. You know, praising, singing, hollering loud. You know, like and people. You know, just passing out, catching the Holy Ghost. Just I'm just like, yo, like. But as a kid, I'm just like, yo, y'all all look crazy. But like when it comes to like a Pentecostal or like more diverse or white church, they were very much like filled with the Spirit. Not as intense, I would say, as a Southern Black church would be. But I did notice that just the way they just express their faith and the way that they express like how they feel for the Lord and for the Spirit is very much different in that way.
I feel like they show up, you know, read a few verses, do their praise, sing a couple songs, and then leave, and you're out of there in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Versus black churches, you're there for
3 hours.
2-3 hours. Like,
3 hours.
so the morning service, you be there probably like a good hour and a half. But when you get to that 11 o'clock service,
11 o'clock service, they can stay there for as long as they want.
you're not leaving until about 3:30.
Exactly. So I know that when I went to in the black church, and it's also I guess it might be both for white church and black church, but you know nobody knows when to leave. Like they stay there, and then they keep talking. And they keep having a fellowship. I'm like, yo, service has been going. The pastor's already said his ending prayer. He's already said, have a great, have a great week. God be with you. Like we've already said our goodbyes, but people still be hanging around like it's a college campus after church. I'm like, yo, I'm trying to go. Like the game's on. Like
They're walking all the way from leaving the pulpit in the parking lot,
Right.
foot in the car, ready to drive to the Sunday dinner where everyone's gonna be at anyway.
Exactly.
And they're still talking for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on,
it's
man.
pretty
we gotta
funny.
go. We gotta go.
It's pretty funny to me. I think because it's like the typical black, like, oh, I'm trying to leave the cookout. You're not leaving the cookout for another hour.
Right.
Or you're not leaving somebody's house for another hour
Because you got to say bye to everybody.
All right now, Brother G. All right now. All right. Say goodnight to your say goodbye to your auntie and your niece.
Is that Brother Jones? Oh, Sister Johnson, how you doing?
I gotta talk to you real quick. Just give me 1 second, baby. Yeah, that type of shit.
And we just sit there. I want to go home. Like, please, I just want to go home.
Hell, even going in the morning, you got to say hi to everyone when you walk into the church too, or else they get mad.
Yeah, it's a respect thing. I get it. The thing is, like, black churches. When you got the pastor driving a Mercedes or a McLaren or some shit, everybody else just struggling.
That's one thing I will say is comparison to a white church and a black church. You will notice that like in a white church they're not necessarily as money hungry as opposed to a black church.
And that's a bad stereotype to have.
They will always have they'll take up offering in the morning,
in
the middle of praise and worship, in the middle of prayer, in the middle of testimonies. They will always be trying to pass that collection plate around. I'm just like, bro, like I already gave my $1 away. Like, come on, man. Like come on, calm down, big fella.
But that's a hustle for some people, though.
Yeah.
Like I had a neighbor who was a pastor, and like he was from the streets, so he was like an actual hustler. So him being a pastor was his like little hustle that he was doing.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, because it's like church is supposed to be about the Lord. If especially for the Christian faith, if you're supposed to be honoring, God and Jesus and everybody who is a part of that time period, and you're supposed to take the lessons from different chapters in different books, and you're supposed to apply it to the current society, and it's just like it's so weird. So like people will be moving so funny in church.
So do you feel like you have to go to church to get that?
I don't always think so. No.
Personally, I don't feel like you gotta go to church.
I think I still like the idea of going to church personally. I think that there is something that does feel good about when you're going and when you do receive a good sermon. And I think that's always something that I struggle with personally is that as a kid, I would always be moved by music. But whenever it came to like the pastor actually like saying something and trying to say, so in the chapter of John 13, verse 6, it said, and I'm just like, I don't know what it says. And I'm just sitting here and they always like, it's always hard to like transcribe like those texts like thou and which and forth and hence and all those biblical vocabulary. It's just like this is going over my head.
It's not biblical vocabulary.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to like the King James version, that's like Old English and everything.
It's Old English translated to in order to get in your head.
Yeah, like when I was going to church, they used I think it was New Living Translation and NLT.
And I thought it was like it's like NLV or some shit like that too.
There's NLT, that's the one that
NLT,
my church used, and then there was NIV, which is like New International Version or something. Yeah.
NIV.
So they used that one. That one was more like Americanized English. So I guess that's why they used it. But even then, like, because it's such an old text that has been transcribed and rewritten for so many centuries, I think there is a point that it can stop being somewhat relatable, though. So, like, that's why the pastors try that hard to, use the Bible to why you shouldn't be out not focusing on your goals and drinking alcohol and partying, or, stay at home and focus on your studies. Like, that text is so old that you have to really try to transcribe it to where it makes sense in modern day. And I think,
a lot of people have issues with that.
Yeah.
You try to like maintain what you think the Bible's actually saying, and trying to transcribe it, it doesn't work now. Like times have changed tremendously, so you can just take things, with a grain of salt. Take like small things from stories and stuff like that, but you can't just take the whole thing, because that's how we're going to get fucked up as a society. We're already fucked up as a society because, let's be honest, it said not to combine church and state, and yet here we are. Yeah. With religious politicians.
I've noticed that there is a shift in the way that people move, because people will tie religion and politics, which that should literally be complete opposite sides of the spectrum, and they try to tie it inside, like you said. But then also, like, they're just, I've come to the determination that, like, when it comes to my desire to go to a church, is I need a good pastor. I need somebody who is relatable. Not necessarily, he may not have to be like somebody young, like close to our age, but somebody that is able to not be as so pokey about follow the actual word, but also really try to make things relatable and make things realistic. Because I think that a lot of times, like, they'll take the Bible, they'll take the the text and the different parts of the Bible that is so ancient, and they try to still apply ancient thoughts into 2022, which we clearly all can agree that, like, that doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
And a lot of people just spew a whole bunch of bullshit out of their mouths now. And you just have to be wary of that type of stuff. Be wary of, who's around, how the people act in that church. Even if you're watching something on YouTube or something like that, just, really heed what they're saying. But don't, just try to figure it out. Figure it out for yourself.
Well, even like going on what Alex said is, that is an old text, so you would like to have a pastor that can actually make it relevant to what we're going through today. But at the end of the day, if you subscribe to the Christian religion, that is God's word. So it's you or the pastor, not you, but like the pastor, whoever's like, talking in front of the church. And if they're tweaking it to where it relates to today's times in such an ancient text, is that technically going against God's words because you're not going about it and reading it verbatim?
I think
crazy. Also good.
I think that there is a gray area. There is a fine line. It's one thing for people to generalize, like they'll read the text and say, "Oh, this is basically what this guy was saying," but it's another thing to where it's like you're honoring the text, but at the same time you're tying into what current things in society has brought forth that's clearly not okay. Because during that time, think about what's happening in like 1 AD, 0 AD, like BC, like probably like adultery and smuggling and stealing and crimes, and a lot of things were a lot more acceptable. and then they tried to turn it into, you know, the Ten Commandments, and then they try to like structure the way that the people move, and they were being very disciplined about that. And then as time has gone on, there's a lot more people that are just raising questions of, you know, just not say they're purposely trying to poke loopholes, but they're like, wait a minute, what is this really saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that now it's really for like a lot of the responsibilities. Like I would charge like any pastor, whoever is called to give the word, like I would challenge them to make sure that you are still being very delicate, because a lot of them are still being very egregious and aggressive with trying to push the old word.
Let's think about this though. You spoke about 1 AD, so that was the year after Christ died. The translations, like we said again, the translations were something completely different from what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact, and it's been written in a bunch of history books, that the Bible has been translated in order to help enslave people. Like that's literally parts of the reasons that it was translated into English or Old English, or however the fuck you want to describe it. And I know Martin Luther with his translation of the Bible as well into German. I believe that's what it was.
Back in like the 1200s, yeah.
It was 1400 something. I know that they also had issues with translations as well. But I know for another fact, which I'm actually about to verify this real quick.
Pull out the receipts.
Fact check. Hey, got to.
The Council of Nicaea. Which actually kind of gave us the image of what Jesus Christ was going to look for the next thousands of years, which gave us the white man, even though in the Bible he's described to have hair as wool, skin of bronze.
Like before you look that up, the image that we have of Jesus now is actually based on an Italian guy named Cesare Borgia, I believe, and he was Italian. And he was not a good dude. Like, if you look up the stuff that he did, it's not good. And it's very vain to have the image of the savior of an entire religion be based off of a dude that really didn't follow or subscribe to that religion. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I get so skeptical about religion just because, like, you as you get older, you can actually read for yourself where a lot of these things come from. Like I said, Council of Nicaea, and how religion itself, like Constantinople, old Rome, when you know the word actually got there, like that whole area, how it completely changed the Holy Roman Empire and how it spread and the ideologies that they spread, and how that empire eventually crumbled. And it's kind of there's so much history that we still don't know, and there's a lot of documents that get hidden, and there's a lot of different things that get destroyed and hidden purposefully because they don't want us to actually know the true history behind the religion.
I mean, think about the idea of like missionaries, or think about the idea of people who are like crusaders, basically saying that they're praying to their God or their Jesus, and their God is telling them that it's okay for you to go pillage and raid these towns, and pillage and raid and rape and enslave all these people based off of, it is my God's right. My God told me to do this, and I'm going to do this because you are now deemed unholy or unworthy. And I'm like, but didn't the Bible also state to love thy neighbor, and the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not pillage or murder or cause harm.
So you have the good shit, and you also have the bad shit. The things that you used to take with a grain of salt.
When it comes to like the transatlantic slave trade, like they use the Bible for that excuse to take in the enslaved Africans.
And this is my troubles with the Holy Bible. That and the whole him, he thing, that there's just one God in one image. I mean, okay, so we say that we're made in God's image, right? There's so many different people, so many different types of things. There's so many plants. There's animals, there's, bugs. Like, everything has a purpose in this life, and everything has an image within itself. So if you think of, like, all right, the Fibonacci sequence is something that comes up first in my head, because that's the 1 + 2 = 3, 3 + 5 = 8. Continues to add on and creates a spiral. That is a naturally occurring number. They're naturally occurring numbers that you can actually see in seeds and sunflowers. You can see it in shellfish, the way that their shells are formed. It's something that's a naturally occurring thing. And you also look at fruit. You look at, like, the way you peel an orange. The orange slices actually look like our lungs. Like, there's little things that's like, oh wow, like, we're all literally connected. There's no way that this thing can be
random.
Just him, he. There's no him, he. It's it. It's kind of what you kind of have to say, like, it.
I try not to humanize God, if that's what you're implying.
Like that's what I'm trying to imply. Like, you can't humanize something
that is something that I never would.
Especially assuming it's gender, man. It's 2022. We assuming gender.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
We're assuming gender. It's
wrong with you?
It's unfathomable, bro. Like, literally, like, it's something that we can't fathom. We can't, like, really put this thing into words. Like, that's one of my biggest troubles with Christianity. And really mostly the monolithic religions.
I think that's what kind of does make it hard, because, like, out of all of you guys, I'm the one that I do still subscribe to the Christian faith. I mean, I have a denomination, but it is hard to combat those type of arguments because they're all valid, which is why I don't subscribe to a specific denomination. I just announce myself as Christian. And now, do I read the Bible? Personally, I don't, because yes, there are a lot of unanswered questions and there are a lot of holes. But I am okay with the idea of leaving it being to the unknown. Like, there's just certain things that I can't explain, that I can't answer for, but I just leave it up to God, and I just allow God to be like, hey, yo, God, that's the homie. They got it. It got it. But for me, as a human, as a Homo sapien, I'm gonna just do what other humans do, and I'm gonna just do my part. But
I get it. I understand what you're saying.
And then one thing too is a lot of people call it the canonized Bible because, as Max mentioned earlier, there are a lot of books that were taken out of the Bible that we know today, like the Book of Enoch, that talks about, like, well, I mean, that there's like books in the Bible that even talk about, like, aliens and stuff like that. So it's just kind of interesting why they would take that stuff out.
Yeah.
Into what it is today. And going back to also what you said about using the Bible to control people, there is an actual book that you can find on Amazon even up to today called How to Make Your Negro a Christian, which is a book that came out in the 1800s that slave masters would use basically to convince their slaves to be Christians.
Yep. I kind of want to backtrack to what Alex was saying. Well, it's kind of like a thing. Like, I personally, I do like to read the Bible at times, because a lot of the stories, they're helpful. They're helpful in times of need. So, like, I feel like you should still read it. But like I said, just take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to follow the word exactly. You can take what you need from it, but don't just go crazy.
Like you said, I agree with you. There are a lot of great lessons. There are a lot of great stories. There are a lot of great things that happen. There are a lot of great things where it's just like, whoa, like, I can't believe, like, this happened, or like the whole like plenty of stories of David and Goliath. The whole life of Jesus from birth to death. Like the whole, like, let's say King Solomon, and like that time, or like
David and Jonathan.
What's it, like John, the Book of John, or Saul? Like, one of them, they were poets, so they wrote poems in response to Jesus. Like, there were just so many stories that I thought were very good, but at the same time, it's just like, okay. And maybe I should just follow that idea of, like, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, yeah, what you doing is cool, but it's like, all right, you going a little too far.
Well, don't you think it's interesting, or do you think it's fair for people to accept stories that put God in a better light than the ones that make him look, you know, a little evil because he be killing people.
The wrathful God,
like
your actual,
flooding the entire planet.
your wrathful God versus your benevolent God.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it shows you. I feel like those types of stories try to humanize it.
Yeah. But it's just,
Think
I mean,
about it.
I'm just going off of what Alex said. It's interesting how, you know, and I'm sure other people do this as well, where certain stories, you know, like David and Goliath, like you said, that's interesting and uplifting. But then you have others where it's like, hey, chill out. Is that fair to do that, even though it's the same book?
I think that you have to. I personally think that what the original Bible was, that had every single chapter, every single book, I think that is the book that should have always been kept around, because that book is the truth. When you retranslate and when you resubscribe and when you try again and again to recreate the Bible, then these are human hands touching it, and now it's you're saturating it in a sense, because it's just like, yo, you're not even giving me the full thing. I wish that the original Bible, however it was created, I wish that was translated to a King James version or to an English version so I could read it.
Or you could learn Arabic.
Or I can learn Arabic. Because that's the closest.
Hebrew and all that.
Hebrew and Arabic,
all
those are
that
the
stuff.
closest language. Those are the closest languages that you can get to being able to read the original text.
Get on the Duolingo, guys.
Right.
Duolingo, yeah.
Hey, Duolingo, holla at us.
Duolingo.
But
Old school was at a stone.
But now, like I said, like now that you're starting to take that out, you're leaving holes. You're leaving things that are going unsaid. Because I think there are things that are necessary to say that, like, God is powerful. He is almighty. He is also merciful, but he also has shown his wrath. Like, even like in the book of Exodus, like the whole story of Moses, of him basically saying that, like, Moses is just the messenger. That's all we've known him as a sheep herder, and basically saying, hey, yo, God told me to tell y'all need to get it together, or he finna come and smack all y'all, basically.
Yeah.
And the Egyptians didn't listen. He was like, all right, y'all want to play with me? All right, plague. And I'm like, oh,
First son.
so I'm like, there are certain instances where it's like there is fear, because like, have y'all ever thought of the idea of like what happened if Jesus were to come back?
Sometimes.
Do you think that
like,
people would
when I was
tighten up,
younger.
or do you think people are like, are you really Jesus? Like,
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, the way it like describes it in like Revelations, like people will be like, oh shit, like try to confess their sins like on the spot.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, but there are certain people, if Jesus were to come back,
So people were already pieces of shit.
Yeah.
right?
Like if a dude saw the white light come down and he was cheating on his wife, he would kick that mistress out so damn quick and pray.
But that's the thing, is like, and the idea is that God and Jesus, they already know. They already know what you about. So by the time he gets there, it's like, it's already too late, bro. Go ahead, come out of there and tell your mistress to come too with you, because he already knows what you was doing before the white lady even came. He knew what you was about. So it's kind of just like, yo, it's time for everybody to face their judgment. And so, I don't know.
I feel like a lot of people are becoming way more skeptical of.
All right. You were saying?
I feel like people are becoming way more and more skeptical of religion nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like situation if Jesus were to come back, it would. I mean, they would be like, "Oh shit, I was wrong," which is fair. But then again, what about the other gods? You know, there's still Hinduism. There's Buddhism. There's so many different other religions that still have gods too.
Yeah, but I think that in those, because I do acknowledge other religions. I think because that's the first thing. Because there are certain Christians who don't even acknowledge that other religions even exist. It's just Christianity and Jesus, and that's the end all be all. And it's just like, no, I acknowledge that there are other nations, nationalities, ethnicities who subscribe to their own personal religion, and that's perfectly fine. So if their God comes back, and I see that their God's back, then I'll be like, oh snap, their God's back. Well, whoever subscribes to him, there you go.
have to deal with the destroyer of worlds.
But then
Vishnu,
Right.
Krishna.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, at that point, then hell's gonna be very populated.
right,
It's gonna be a lot of traffic.
right. So, but I know that for me, if Jesus were to come in, it's just like, well, like that's me, like type of thing. It's just like,
Think about this too, though, bro. You said hell. Lucifer didn't fall through Earth. We're already in hell's domain. He fell to Earth. He's a fallen angel.
Okay, I see where you're going with that.
So how do you know we're not already in hell?
and we're just trying to get out. We're trying.
Are
to,
we?
We're.
You know what?
Are we trying to? Are we?
Think about really just think about this because this is an actual story. Like Lucifer was banished from heaven. He falls to Earth. So this is his domain technically. Earth is his domain. And people say hell. Hell is supposedly something that's we don't know. Like we think heaven's on top, Earth is in the middle, hell is on the bottom, right? But how do you know we're not already here? Like we see all these. I mean, a lot of celebrities actually talk about this shit. What?
But then,
Like, this is-
I'll follow up with it then. If we are already here, then what is our purpose while we're here? Are we just? Is it
What is our purpose?
is like, are we trying to get out? Because for me personally, if that is what the reality is, then I'm doing everything I can to make sure I get out. It's like prison. It's like we're already born in with a prison sentence, and we're just trying to make sure that we make bail. Like,
all right, before I go into that, I want Max to go ahead and describe, your transition from Christianity to where you are now.
Okay.
Kind of like your backstory.
All right. So yeah, my family is well, not like my parents and like my siblings, but my mom's side of the family is extremely religious. So my great uncles, great aunts, all Southern Baptist, black church, like really heavy into it. So seeing that and also being the person that I am, even at a young age, I used to read a lot. So I used to sit in church and notice certain things I didn't like tithing, just people being fake, all that type of stuff. I realized that this might not be for me.
mm-hmm.
So there was a period where I was agnostic, where I didn't believe necessarily in God, but I thought that there was something there. And then I realized that maybe agnosticism is not my proper religion.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of got more into spirituality and how vibrations and frequencies are something that actually do control, and that's how we actually are as beings and as souls, because we're living vibrations, and so is everything around us. Everything around us vibrates at certain frequencies. But I realized that I can't just submit to one ideology, right? So I have to kind of move, and this goes into Taoism, which is flow like a river. How because water can change whatever direction it is going depending on what's in front of it, or what's around it based on its surroundings. So it's kind of like I can maneuver the way I want to. I still see. I read, or I try to read about all religions. Try to learn about certain things that people find that are important. So I can't. Yeah, I can't say I'm religious. I can say I'm spiritual. I can say that I can still praise God if I want to, but I just choose not to. And choose not to. Well, I do, but just choose not to. Just be like, I'm purely Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't. It's not who I am.
A question for everybody here: were any of you guys baptized?
Yes.
You were baptized. Was the baptism per your choice or per your parents' choice?
Kind of both. I mean, I wanted to do it because I thought it looked cool. Because I was like 12. But my parents were like,
To get dunked in the tub and have everybody look at you and clap.
Yeah, but my parents, back when they were really in the Christian faith, it was more like we want you to, get baptized so you can be one with God and kind of have a restart or refresh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my brothers were baptized. I did not. I wasn't. So I'm gonna burn in hell, guys. Unfortunate.
I was baptized. I think I was baptized when I was around 10 or 11. I always ask my parents, because I always noticed, like, like the communion. And I was just like, yo, like, what is all these people eating these little wafer cookies, and like there's this little juice that people are drinking. And it's like, yeah, this is communion. This is where like every once in a while, like, you'll take communion, acknowledging that Jesus died for our sins. This is his body, and this is represented as his blood. And I was like, that's his blood? I mean, as a kid, I'm like, that's his blood? But I was like, so like I was like, could I do that? She was like, well, you have to be baptized first to be able to take communion. And I was like, so how do I get baptized? She was like, when you personally acknowledge Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and you want to fully honor him and embed that into your life, then I will take you to get baptized, and then you can take communion. And I was like, okay. And so getting baptized for me and for my brother as well, like, that was purely our choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so they told us about it. And so even when I saw communion in Panama and communion in the States, it's all like the same idea. Take communion, acknowledge God, choose to walk with God in that specific light, and then you could take communion. So when I chose to do it, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. And so for me, I always looked at getting baptized as like very important for me. But also during that time, I was like very heavy into that idea and that denomination. So that's why I asked, like, for you guys that are spiritual, I wonder if that was something that was a requirement for you guys or not. So that's why I asked if you guys were baptized.
Okay. I mean, to be honest, I was hyped about communion too, because it looked cool when everyone was eating a cracker and drinking the. So I was like, oh man, they drinking wine? Like, let me get some of that. And then I'm like, this is the driest fucking cracker ever. That shit is so dry, dude.
All churches get bumble crackers and Welch's like boo boo grape juice. Like, yeah. Come on, bro. Like,
they go to like the boonies for that stuff. It's just not good.
Though, bro. My dad went to a Catholic school growing up. My dad grew up in New York.
Yeah.
So my dad went to a Catholic school. We're all growing up, and he's not religious at all.
Yeah.
He's not religious. I feel like that what kind of moves him out of it.
Okay.
Because he saw a lot of terrible shit going on in New York in the 60s, 70s, and he graduated college in the 80s. So, so the 60s and 70s, bro, like the blackouts, the crime, the stories that he used to tell me about him growing up in the city in Harlem, in those times. It's like, how can you truly believe in God if you're living in those types of situations?
We always make it seem like New York is Gotham.
That shit rough.
It's rough over there.
That shit was rough. Like, seeing the apartment that they lived in, which was okay at that point, but still, like, bro, and the shit that he had to deal with, like, can't even really fathom that shit.
Yeah, seeing like very tragic things like that is definitely gonna make you question your belief in God. And going back to, and when I was on my phone, I was actually like doing a little bit of research just to refresh what I've been learning. So going back to what you said about if we're in hell right now, so if you listen to the after hours that we did, I kind of go into a personal story about my spiritual revelation. I'm not going to get to it here because you can listen to it over there. So please listen to that after hours. But through the research I've been doing for the past 10 years, I've been really diving deep in what's called etymology, which is the origin of words. And it kind of shows you how throughout decades and centuries that meanings of words have changed. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of go back to the original language on what that word meant. And stuff that really started made me question things was Lucifer means light bearer or bearer of light.
Mm-hmm. In what language?
Hebrew.
Okay.
He was God's favorite.
Yeah.
And he didn't like the way that God was kind of choosing the humans over him.
Well, that's based on the story, but as far as the
Yeah,
word,
that's based on the story.
as far as the word, it means light bearer, and what we call him, Satan, means adversary. So the adversary of God in the Bible is the bearer of light, which is it's a little weird when you think about it that way. And then on top of that, he's the one that took the form of the serpent to convince Eve to eat the apple or the fruit from the tree of knowledge. Why would you, God, not want your creations to have the knowledge of good and evil?
Bear the fruit from the tree of knowledge.
That's a little weird to me.
Very questionable.
Are they putting it? Was the fruit a temptation? Would you?
Well, they made it sin.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, he said that you will know as much as God knows if you eat from that.
that leaves an unanswered question.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you not want your creation? Like, what are you scared?
Put your people on. Like,
It sounds like you're scared.
I feel like if you're too knowledgeable, well, and this is kind of fact for just people in general. Like people that become more knowledgeable and more aware of the world, they end up being unhappy.
Yeah.
Because you realize, like, you're like, dang, like all these people don't know what I know. There's so many people that don't know what I know.
You think that Einstein was
really help them?
You think that Einstein was sad that he knew more than the average person? Like,
no, that's not what I'm getting at, bro. It's like there's certain things that people don't want to look at and don't want to realize, and you're just like, wow, like I can see this. I'm seeing right through it, and everybody else is just blind. And I want to help, but they have to be willing to open their eyes themselves. And people would just, you're getting upset about that shit. And no, scientific ideology, that's completely different. You're doing scientific findings and stuff like that. Okay, that's cool. You're an expert in whatever you know, whatever. But the science is ancient.
But don't you think it would be kind of depressing for people that believe in the Big Bang? Like, from that theory, we came from nothing. The whole universe was an accident. Yeah. I can see why people would be depressed.
Yeah.
But
now we have the particle collider now.
Yeah.
So they're kind of learning.
It's just like people were just sitting there like, dang, we really weren't supposed to be here. Like,
or like the Higgs boson field, where like they learned that how atoms gain mass when they pass through that field.
No, that, and then really, if you think about it, the creation of Earth, of however the history that they give us, the creation of Earth is kind of accidental. Like, we continue getting hit by more meteors, and those meteors carried life. The water was like dangerously acidic, so there was no life that could actually live in it. But there were bacteria already in that could survive those conditions. And then when those meteors continued to hit the Earth, it would make the water more alkaline. So water, like pH 7 water, and water gives life. So you start to have more bacteria that carries on life, and all of a sudden you have fish, and all of a sudden you have things walking on land. Well, you have land created from volcanoes, which is spewing out more and more bacteria and stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other scientific things that went on, but everything seems like it's accidental. Like, it's kind of crazy. Hey, you think about it.
Through that perspective, yeah. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention when you said, "Are we in hell already?" So, going through like reading about Hinduism and Buddhism, I read a philosophy called Gnosticism, not agnostic, Gnostic, and I had to research just to make sure I knew what I was talking about. And it was actually early sections of Jews and Christians. So these are like the original Christians before I got to the canonized Bible. And they gathered all of the books of the Bible. So they have all of them. And then even talked to people from different religions and all, just to kind of like get their perspective. And if you subscribe to the ideology of Gnosticism, what they have came up with is the God in the Bible, or like the Abrahamic religions, because it's pretty much the same God, is a malevolent being called the demiurge, and it's actually more than one. Because if you go to Genesis,
Malevolent being.
yeah. So if you go to Genesis 1, where's it at? 126, chapter 1, verse 6. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." I thought God was one. Why are you saying our?
Hey, bro, don't get this shit taken down.
I'm not getting taken down. I'm just asking questions.
You will get a strong reward.
I'm just asking questions. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was very interesting.
He's gonna be getting followed in fucking white man.
Listen, it's been 10 years. I haven't had that yet.
You were a kid at that time. Now you're
So?
an adult.
So yeah. So the demiurge is who actually created this realm that we live in, and so anything that's like material wise or the worship of material things is considered evil. And the way to get out of that is gnosis, or knowledge, reading, understanding.
You trying to pull me away from my Christian faith?
No, I'm just having you think,
power,
bro.
brother.
I'm just having you think, dog. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
I knew I was gonna enjoy this talk.
I will say, I think I said it before already, but I will say that there is something hard about being Christian. I think with all religions, whatever you subscribe to does come with a sense of responsibility. Of like whoever you're trying to, or whatever you're trying to do, it's, you want to represent your religion well, for whatever it is, Buddha, Hindu, Christian, whichever one has Allah as
Islam.
Whatever you want to do, you want to represent it well. And I think what also makes it hard is that, like, yeah, there are other texts and there are other conversations that I want to have that does not pertain to my religion, but also at the same time, I think it's like conversation like this is perfectly fine. I think what makes it dangerous is when people are trying to like Hotep, like wake up, brother, like open your third eye, brother, like this is poisoning you, brother. And I'm just like, don't try to convince me to try to like get me to leave.
Talking about God, what are they called?
He said it's Hoteps.
Oh, you said
Hoteps.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Hoteps.
Yeah.
Nah, it's another term. Fuck. It's gonna hurt. And it's gonna be 7 o'clock. I'm part of
As
your
soon as you
chat.
sit down at home.
I'm like,
God damn.
that's the name.
Just put it in the comment when the video drops.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't remember.
But yeah, no, I think it's one of the things that makes it dangerous on both sides. Like, I can't poke the Bible at any of you guys, but you all guys who can't poke your spirituality at me either.
Yeah.
Like your other, because for me, I just call it, because since there's no real label for what you guys subscribe to, I just call it alternative religion. It's not a specific. It's not something that's specific, but it's just alternative, meaning that there's another way for you to get your healing and your answers from a different source, a different higher power. But it's not one of the things that are labeled out that you can look up. So I just call it alternative religion for that purpose only. So I think it's just a matter of just being able to have these type of conversations, but also still being able to have the same mutual amount of respect for one side versus the other.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely respect all religions, but I just don't respect the people that try to use religion as an excuse to do terrible shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be horrible people, because that's the complete opposite of what your religion is about. Don't be a fucking bad person. Like, it's easy.
That's all. That's all religions is saying is don't be a bad person.
And each religion has their own version of it. Their own version, their own way. But at the end of the day, like, and I think that's also one thing that I just favor too, is just be a good person. Be a good human, a good person, and serve your life well, because we only get one. And so however you're going to carry it, however you choose to live your life, at least do it with good intentions. With good intentions and a good mindset of saying that I'm going to do the best that I can without causing harm to other people. And I think that's also something that people try to like implement, is that like, you're hurting me if you're not following my religion. Like, no, like has nothing to do with you.
No,
Like,
it's more like I'm gonna hurt you if you don't follow my religion.
Right. Like, follow my religion or you're going to hell, and I'm gonna put you in hell myself. Like, like no. Like,
And at the end of the day, like, yeah, don't be a bad person, obviously, but you can't really blame people for taking their religion that seriously, in my opinion, in that sense, because, you know, I mentioned this in the after hours as well, is when, especially when it comes to religion, and that's really in your upbringing, you know, having that, or because it's organized religion is a structure you have to follow in order to properly subscribe to that religion. When you do that, you end up thinking that the way you are brought up is the right way to do it and the only way to do it. And when people unlearn that, that's when we're going to come together. So it takes conversations like this. Why do you believe what you believe and things like that? Not in the sense to convince anyone or nothing, but it's always good to kind of gather information from other sources and go, you know what, that kind of makes sense and that kind of makes sense. What I got going on don't make that much sense, but I still want to subscribe to this, but I'm not going to completely knock down what you're saying either, though.
Right.
So then, I'll then move with this then. How do you, because we talked about this in the after hours, but Max, where do you go from here? After a conversation like this, like, where do you go from here?
I'm going the same route I'm going.
I'm
I'm doing more research on certain things, but yeah, I'm doing the same shit I've been doing.
But are you expecting, or would you want your partner to follow the same idea as yours? What are you going to teach your children if your partner comes from a different religious upbringing, and how do you want to blend that? Like what is your?
It's not. I mean, I'm not gonna force anything on anybody, bro. Like, you have your own. It's okay to have your own ideology, bro. I don't care. Like, as long as they're not something that's like insane. Like, okay, I have to kill this person and you know, milk their blood for, you know, Cthulhu or some shit. Like, no, I'm cool. I'm cool. Otherwise, like, as long as you're a good person, I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah. Man said Cthulhu.
You're just gonna have somebody strung up just in a basement somewhere, and
Yeah,
you're just gonna
fucking-
just make them ooze out blood on different sides.
Yeah, no, that's just fucked up.
Okay.
But no, I'm good, man. No. I'm very good, bro.
So do you think?
I'm a good person.
So do you think that, you know, younger people at our age, are slowly like going away from religion, or kind of tweaking it to where it's more of like a personal relationship with God?
I feel like a lot of people go with fads.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't read for themselves enough. So they don't know what to actually do. They just go where everybody else is going. Or go follow whatever they hear. Follow whatever they think is cool. Whatever. That's me saying everybody's a dumbass.
In a nice way.
Yeah.
Respectfully?
I'm not saying it like that. They're not a dumbass. Just people need to read more. I'll just go with that. Read books, guys. It'll expand your vocabulary.
Get you
AKA.
some money, nigga.
Yeah, really. Get you some money. Stay
Get your
focused.
money up.
Get up out of celebrity business and get your bag. Get a job. The word of the day is job. J.
Alright, Pops.
Right. That's funny. Nah, but this is a strong topic because it could go either way. Because if you say the wrong thing, it will hit that triggering people and they will get pissed at you.
There's gonna be people flooding our comments like, "Yeah, I can't believe you would do this on my subscriber." I'm like, dang, I just was stating my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there was so going through like a spiritual awakening, you will kind of go into that stage in your life where you're very upset because you feel like you were lied to, and you start posting, you know, really deep stuff. And my pops, he was like posting a lot of deep stuff on Facebook to where like, because at first it was like more Christian stuff, so they would call him like the Facebook pastor and stuff. And once we kind of had the same spiritual awakening around the same time, he started posting deep stuff like the stuff I was just talking about, the etymology of words and stuff like that, questioning. And there were people that were like throwing Bible verses at him that really didn't have anything to do with what he was saying. So they were getting pissed at him, and he would have fights with them. So it was kind of like a back and forth. And after a while, he was like, there's no point in convincing people. It's just let them do what they do. So he would just post, and then people would still come at him, and he would just be like, hey, like, I'm gonna fight you with it.
Used to be upset about certain things like that, and I was just like, you know what, fuck it. Y'all gonna learn whatever y'all learn.
Yep.
Do whatever you feel.
There was one dude that was so upset. He was like, I will beat your ass for Jesus. Man, I was like, hey, like, what the hell you talking about?
This is what we're saying not to do.
Yeah.
The Bible says do not cause harm.
I wish you would.
You want to pull up to him just like that? Hat back, hat sideways.
The T.I. hat lean.
Glock 17, motherfucker. I'm just playing.
You ain't no shoot. I mean, he's in the back of the car.
I don't. I don't know what you're talking about.
This dude right here, bro.
All right. Well, I think that we'll leave it at that. I think at the end of the day, people need to continue to have good conversations and need to be able to be open to, different ideas and different thoughts and different mindsets. And I think that as long as we continue to have those open conversations, I think that we'll continue to get better as a whole at the end of the day.
No, I definitely agree with that.
That would just be my closing statement.
Max, what's your closing statement?
Man, I tried my hardest to love all people. Some people just need to really.
You were saying, Max?
I was saying, I love everybody. I believe that people need to really look into the religions, and try to not change it, but use things and try to warp it to today's times. Because whatever word was written back then, it doesn't pertain to now. There's that. That's one thing, and then the other thing is just be good people. Love one another, and you won't go to hell or wherever bad place is in your religion. Yeah.
That's tough. My last remark, man, is, just have conversations like this. You know what I'm saying? The only way we grow as people is to just communicate with each other. We're social beings. And like I said, the way that you're brought up or the way you think isn't the only way to think, and it's not the right way to think. It's always good to talk with your fellow people and bounce ideas off each other. And with times evolving, belief systems will evolve as well. So if stuff is not benefiting the current times, maybe it's time to let some things go.
Yeah.
So we can better ourselves and better humanity.
Read. Please read.
Yeah, seriously. You need to
and
read.
Not like fiction. Read like things that will move you. Please.
Non-fiction books.
Yeah.
Please.
And I guess with that, we'll bring this up to a close.
Please!
Thank you, guys, for tuning in to another episode.
Please!
And that.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe if you want. If you don't, I don't understand why, because of this nigga.
Yeah, so that is definitely season 2 finale for your ass.
So we're gonna end it. Make sure y'all
Read a book!
make sure you guys follow us on social medias. Follow us on Dystopia. Follow and listen to you listen to podcasts. If you don't want to see this man act like a fool. And we thank you guys always for watching us and sticking with us, man. And until next time, we'll see y'all in season 3.
Peace.
You say what's up to the camera? What's up? You say what's up to the camera?
Stay undercover. Stay undercover, I'm stealth. My whole life I kept on waiting for shit. Had to learn to go get it myself. I'll get this shit by myself. I'll make a way for myself. I see you got a new dude and that's cool, but I promise we fuck I won't tell. Know that you miss it, I tell. Because you still hit up myself. So just let us out of ourselves. Cause I think I'm losing brain cells. Cause you're toxic, so toxic, still want you myself. Wanted that girl for some years now. Now she unbuckled my belt. And see that she like how I felt. I'm on a mission, no I cannot fail. Killer but not Freddy Krueger. That means I kill something else. Different is how I maneuver. I am like nobody else. A loner, so do not look for me. Cause I gotta look for myself. I do what I did this shit for me. I don't live for nobody. Stay undercover. Stay under.